Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game The Search for Planet X. This was sent to me by Renegade Game Studios and is designed by Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley. Since 2016, astronomers have been searching for a distant planet to explain the unique orbits of observable objects in the solar system. Do you have what it takes to find Planet X? Let me show you how to play. So the goal of the game is to earn renown by locating Planet X and by submitting correct theories about the locations of other objects in the solar system. The player who contributes the most to this astronomical investigation will score the most points and win the game. There are two modes to the game, standard mode and expert mode. I'm just showing you the standard mode, although I actually think the expert mode is the better way to play. But just to teach you how to play the game, we'll go into standard mode. Now, as you can see, the solar system here is divided into 12 sectors. There's 18 sectors in expert mode. Each sector either contains one object or is truly empty. And there are 5 types of objects in the game: asteroids, comets, dwarf planets, gas clouds, and Planet X itself. And each type of object has certain logic rules that dictate where objects of that type can be located in relation to other objects or sectors. Now you get this sheet here, and I'm going to go over each one. First off, you have comets. These comets are located in particular sectors. So in standard mode, they can only be within 2, 3, 5, 7, and 11. You can see that marked by those symbols for the comets there. Gas clouds have to be adjacent to at least one truly empty sector, and that's represented by the cloud symbol. Dwarf planets. No dwarf planet is adjacent to Planet X, and there's only one of those in standard mode. Each asteroid is adjacent to at least one other asteroid. This means that the asteroids are either in 2 separate pairs or one group of 4. There's also sectors can truly be empty, in which case there are 2. Remember, the Planet X, actually I haven't told you this yet, but Planet X appears empty, but there are actually 2 truly empty sectors. And finally, there's only one Planet X. It's not adjacent to a dwarf planet, and it will appear empty, but it's actually there. I'll explain that concept later. Otherwise, the ring around this track is called the time track, and that's how you keep track of who goes next. In this game, it's not necessarily a turn-based game, or it's not necessarily a clockwise-based game. It's whoever's pawn is farthest back on the time track is always the active player. So theoretically, you could have multiple moves if you are the furthest person back on the time track. So like, let's say blue was here, yellow was here, red was here. Purple could go, and then purple could go again because they're still the farthest back. This section here is the visible sky. This will change as the pawns move, and this is what parts of the sky you can see. They're numbered by sector. Along the edges here are theory squares. You can put theories here, and as they get pushed to the center, they become peer-reviewed and can either be correct or incorrect. And we'll get into all of this later, but I'm just showing you kind of the layout of the board. Now, one thing that the game does require is an app. It's a free app, very easy to download, but it is required to play the game. So once you have the app set up, everyone can either download it themselves or pass around a tablet that has it. Each player will then get secret information that only they know. And all of this is very important because, again, you only know this, and you're going to write all this on your sheet. So, for example, Sector 3, we know that's not an asteroid. So yeah, you can cross that out on the sheet. And now you know that's not an asteroid. In the actual game, you have these very nice sort of like shields that you can put in front of your paper so that nobody can see it. And it has all the references for all the information that you need in the game, which is also very nice. All right, now that each player has sort of noted down their secret information they received at the start of the game, now let's kind of go through how the gameplay works. So like I said before, gameplay is not in a fixed turn order. It's dependent on who is furthest back. On an active player's turn, you can take one action and then advance your pawn based on the time cost of the action. Once the active player's turn is over, whoever's pawn is now furthest back on the time track becomes the new active player. There are 4 actions you can do. You can survey for an object, target a sector, research a topic, or locate planet X. Let's go through surveying first. Let's say you want to look for a specific type of object. You can survey a range of visible sectors. Again, that's what the sky is currently showing at the time. And see if how many objects of that type are in that range. So let's say I want to search as the red player. We're going to search sectors 1, 2, and 3 for gas clouds. Now, the less sectors you search, the more expensive in time it's going to be. If you do 1, 2, or 3 sectors, it's going to be 4 time cost. If you do 4, 5, or 6 of them, it'll be 3 cost. 7, 8, or 9 of them will cost 2. And the reason being because, you know, the smaller number of sectors you do, the more specific information you're going to get. And here's how it works. So what we do is we take our app, we press survey, and we're going to search for gas clouds. So click gas clouds, and we're going to start in sector 1 and go to sector 3 and survey. And the app tells us, now this is private information only for us, there are no gas clouds in the sectors 1 through 3. So player 1 can then cross out all those gas clouds secretly behind their shield. Now that player 1's done that, they have to move their pawn 4 time spaces. And then we'll rotate the Earth board if necessary. I'll get into that later. For now, you don't need to do it. There are also certain points in the sort of sky wheel where you'll have to do actions. I'll also get into that later. Another action you can do is you can target a sector. If you want to know just very specifically what's in this sector, you can do that. This costs 4 time as well. In order to do this, though, you have to spend a target token, and you only have 2 of these for the whole game. So let's say you spend one. Let's say yellow spends one. Let's say yellow player wants to search sector 6. They announce their decision to the rest. Then they go into the app, click target, and they're searching for 6. And it tells you straight up, there's an asteroid in sector 6. Now this is private information for you, and so on your wheel, you can mark down there's an asteroid there. Now this is very valuable information because you know that because how asteroids work, one of these spaces has to have an asteroid too, because there's always at least one adjacent asteroid to every other asteroid. Anyway, now that you have that information, yellow pawn moves 4 spaces. If you ever land in the same space as another pawn, you go before them. Like that. Now remember, for surveying and targeting, sectors may appear empty. It may tell you it's empty, but Planet X can still be there. So you have to keep that in mind. The game will never tell you if Planet X is one of the objects there, because it either appears empty or is not actually there. Another action you can do is researching a topic. This action costs 1. Let's say blue player is going to do that. What you do is you pull out your app, click research, and pick a topic. Okay, let's say gas clouds and dwarf planets. And you announce your selection to the other players, and reveal. And now this gives you information. This is private information for yourself, and it tells you that no gas cloud is directly opposite the dwarf planet. You would then write that down on your sheet in the columns here provided for notes, and that's very valuable information for the logic puzzle. Now, the one sort of limitation on this is on your next turn, you can't choose this action again. You can't do research twice in a row. So, blue player would move 1 space. And now, purple, since purple's the furthest back, they can do any of those actions. They could also locate Planet X. Let's say, after a certain point, you've done enough sort of researching and narrowing it down, and you go, okay, I think I know, first off, which planet or which sector has Planet X, and you also need to know what objects are in the 2 adjacent sectors. If you want to, do that, you go into the app, you do locate Planet X. It's 5 time cost to do it. You would then select the sector, select what objects you think are in the other sectors, and look at it and confirm. You don't announce the sector where you looked, but you do announce whether you succeeded or failed. Now, I'm not going to put it in because obviously there's no way at this point this player would know. But if you're like, aha, I think I know the answer, That's how you do it. And let's say for some stupid reason the purple player did do it and they wasted 5 points, and anyway they're here. Now, I did mention that the sky wheel would move, and let's go into that. After purple is moved, now this arrow is not pointing at the sector containing the furthest back pawn track, now that it's 2. So after purple takes their turn and moves onto this time space, then that's when this starts to move. It would move to here, because currently blue is the farthest back. And so now this portion of the sky is visible, meaning you can only target or research, or not research, but survey these sections of the sky. And now let's get into when we hit one of these. This is when you do the theory phase, and this is very important because this is a very good way to get points if you can. First off, you select your theories. Each player has a select number of possible theories they can submit. Like here are the yellow players, and you can see they have different objects on them. In standard mode, each player may select up to 1 theory. In expert mode, you can select up to 2. But no matter how many you select, each player is going to place their hand outside the table and then reveal how many theories they're going to place down. Let's say that yellow player thinks that Sector 5 has an asteroid. What they would do is they would put this theory face down on the space here. Let's say blue and purple didn't do it, but red thinks there's an asteroid here. Now, the theories you place can be placed anywhere. They don't have to be placed in a sector is currently visible. So actually, let's say, I don't know, red goes, I think there's a meteor here. Or not a meteor, but an asteroid. Once everybody has placed their theories, then all face-down theories get pushed 1 step toward the middle. If a theory ever reaches this space here, closest to the middle, that's when you do a peer review. And one by one, in numerical order, you check them. So let's say we check to see if this is an asteroid or not. I mean, this would have happened after like, several turns, but I'm just showing you an example. You would do peer review. You would select Sector 5, and you're going to see if it's an asteroid or not. And check the results. Correct, it is an asteroid. So, what would happen for a yellow player is, since this is correct, he's going to score points for this at the end of the game. You leave this here, and now nobody else can place theories in this because the yellow player guessed it correctly. Theoretically, purple player also had a theory, but it hadn't reached the middle yet. You would then flip this. Oh, it's also an asteroid, so they're both correct. They both will get to score for that then at the end. However, if this had been incorrect, you would just remove it from the game. If it was an incorrect theory, then it remains unconfirmed. This would be removed from the game along with this, and each player can then cross out that object icon because now we know for sure that that sector does not have an asteroid. And you remove these from the game, meaning you cannot use those for the rest. Then, each player who got it wrong would move their pawn 1 space forward as a time penalty. Now, let's say as we go around, we hit one of these. This is when we do the conference phase. And what the conference phase is, you're going to receive some information. In this case, it would be X1. So you click Planet X Conference and reveal it. Planet X is within 4 sectors of the dwarf planet. That is information for everybody, and this is only performed once this is reached for the first time. Now that's pretty much the meat of the game. Is you're basically going around, narrowing things down and taking notes, learning new information with surveying and targeting. And trying to publish theories. And the reason why you want to publish theories is the end of the game is triggered when one player finally correctly locates Planet X and the 2 sectors next to it. That player would then advance 5 spaces on the board, but the Earth does not rotate. Now, that's when there are final scoring opportunities for everybody else. Each other player gets a final opportunity to either submit a theory, if you're 1, 2, or 3 sectors behind, or 2 theories if you're 4 or 5 sectors behind the Planet X player. Or if you want to try looking for Planet X, you can also go for that, and you'll score points depending on how far back you are. Once you are done with all that, That's when you would reveal the objects, which the app will let you do. You click this, and it tells you all the answers. And you would then check everything, make sure if there are any incorrect theories, throw them away, and otherwise leave the correct theories there for scoring. Because how scoring works at the end is, at the end of the game, you're going to score 1 point for each sector where you were the first player to submit the correct theory about the object in that sector. And then for each category, for each theory you were correct on, you'll score points. So each asteroid theory you guessed correctly is 2, comets are 3, gas clouds are 4, and so on. So you really want to score as many of those as you can. And then finally, if you were the first player to correctly locate Planet X, you'll get 10 points. If you located it but were not the first player to do so, count how many sectors back your pawn is from the pawn of the player who did it, and you'll score 2 points for each sector back. And then you just tally up your scores. If there's a tie, whoever scored the most points for locating Planet X is the winner. If there's still a tie, whoever scored the most points for leader bonuses. Otherwise, you share your victory, which is lame. I did promise I would go over the expert mode, because that's basically it, is you're getting information, taking notes, and just trying to figure out where Planet X is. And if you know, like, I know this space has an asteroid, publishing theories and getting points at the end. But let me show you the expert side, which I actually think is the better version to play, especially if you have played logic games before. The other side of the board has 18 sectors, so it's a lot tougher. And the rules, not only can you publish more theories, it's up to 2 for each theory round. But the rules are also different for the objects. Comets in this game, they can be in way more. 13 and 17 are included. Gas clouds are the same. Dwarf planets, however, there's only 1 in standard mode. There are 4 of them in expert mode. And they are in a band of exactly 6 sectors with a dwarf planet at each end. Asteroids are the same. However, in expert mode, there are 5 empty sectors instead of 2. So you just have a lot more to kind of keep track of and puzzle through. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. It's a big old logic puzzle where you're getting information, writing them down secretly behind your sort of wall, and trying to race to figure out astronomical discoveries first. And that's the game. So I love deduction games, and this game works really well. I love the app integration. It runs really smoothly and gives you genuine satisfaction whenever you receive new info or have correct hunches. You really do feel like astronomers using your computers to input hypotheses and scan sectors of space for new information. It's great. I think if you enjoy deduction games, you should just jump into expert mode. I mean, if you're playing with kids or, beginners, standard mode is great, but expert mode is really fun. It's got a very satisfying mix of concepts that'll have you scratching your head at first, and it might be a little overwhelming, but once the pieces start clicking together, you get so much enjoyment of, oh, okay, because if this is here, that means this has to be this, and this is this. It's wonderful. Inputting correct theories before your opponents is extremely satisfying, because it's basically you going, ha, I know more than you. And watching them be wrong is even more satisfying. I love that the game rewards you, not just for getting the answer first for Planet X, but also for exhaustively making sure you figure out the other elements. You can't just win if you only do Planet X. You have to know the rest of the board and score points if you want to compete with the others. The turn system of whoever's furthest back in the time track that they go first, that's always a fun system, because you're always tempted between being economical and making the most out of your actions, or going for big, bold moves of, targeting or whatever. Having different portions of the sky and the events trigger as you move your tokens along the time track is really clever. And I like that portion of the sky is visible. I think that's fun. There's a game that I really enjoy called Alchemists that is a much heavier game than this, but it also features app-based deduction with like a hidden screen. But this game features that sort of great satisfaction of deduction, whilst making that the focus and being very easy to learn and play. All you're doing is focusing on narrowing things down. You get research information, you get, there's this is in this sector, and it's just classic logic puzzling deduction. And it's laid out in a really clean set of actions and rules. I thought this game was just awesome. And if you're in the mood for some very pure logic puzzling and going aha, and with a really great presentation and app to go with it, I highly recommend this game. This game is fantastic.